Have you ever had problems with the keyboard when it gets so cruddy inside it just doesn't work anymore? Well, I'm going to attempt to pull this one apart and see if I can fix it. Now, this is the keyboard you first saw a couple of years ago, brand new, but unfortunately if you're a smoker, you should never smoke near keyboards, which is why this thing's stuffed up. So first thing you need to do is turn the power off, flip it over, do this at your own risk, and if it's a really cheap keyboard you have, it's probably not even worth doing. But so get a little tiny screwdriver. Well, first of all, take the batteries out. If it's a wireless keyboard, of course. Come out. If it's not a wireless keyboard, skip the step about batteries because there won't be any. Then get a little screwdriver and start undoing all the little screws. Then with a couple of very thin bladed screwdrivers, carefully work your way around the edge and separate. Try and find a place where you're not going to damage it too much. Just do a little twisting motion. They're all going to be slightly different probably, but work your way around the edges. Trying not to break too much. Now usually you'll find these little rubber pads, if you carefully lift them up, there's a further set of screws under there, so you want to take them out as well. If you haven't seen it already, check out the video I did about how to magnetize a screwdriver. Very handy. So continue around and undo all of those. Make sure you don't lose the screws because you're going to need those. So this one does have a little screw under it, but it's at the end. If you feel any resistance, it's usually why. Need to remagnetize this one, I think. So again, there was a screw under there, so you'll need to take those out as well. Once you're sure all of the screws are removed, continue around the edge, and very carefully you'll be able to unpick it. Now if you've only got a cheap keyboard, it's probably not worth your time to do this. But these have gone up to about $129 now, because you can't buy the keyboard separately from the mouse, which is a pain. Start sealing in there. Now normally these are a membrane keyboard underneath rather than a switch, made to a price not to quality. Just, there we go, carefully move your way around. Don't pull off any wires that you're going to find, in this case up the top. Bit of a fiddle, but you'll get there. can just kind of twist the screwdriver sideways. I think there's something holding it in there. What? Okay, I've tried pulling it apart. My guess is there's a screw under there. So given that this is out of warranty, let's just unfortunately dig our way through here, because it should have normally pulled apart. No, there wasn't a screw there, so it's just obviously glued the other side, so carefully lever the thing apart. Well, I've skipped out a bit of extreme violence there, did not want to separate. It turns out I was right, there were two other screws hidden under the label, as you can see. Never mind. A bit of force took care of that. Anyway, when you separate it, this is basically what you'll find. See, it was, as I suspected, glued in two parts there. So, as I said, there'd be a membrane, which is this thing. This is quite dirty, and most likely the cause of the problem. Deal with that in a sec. That's the little circuit. Well, put simply, when you push these keys, they press down and make a circuit. May not be obvious, but trust me, they do. I used to have an electronics repair shop. So step one, probably give that a bit of a vacuum out, or get a clean paintbrush and clean it. So this is a brand new paintbrush actually. Give it a good flick out. Seems a lot cleaner than I expected, to be honest. That will lift up. Oops. I see. So there's two layers of circuit board here. They look pretty clean. I don't think I'll disturb those. Other than have a bit of a brush underneath. And then we'll do the same with the other side of the keys here. Give those a brush out. And a bit of a vacuum. Won't hurt to flip this over, give this side a vacuum as well. I'll show you how to clean these keys a bit in a while too. So this membrane, although it doesn't look that bad, run some lukewarm soapy water, give those a swish about in there. And yes, you won't be able to use your keyboard for about an hour while this dries, but that's okay, you'll live. Do something productive instead. That should do. Now get your membrane, swish it around there. And you can do your dishes at the same time. Rinse that off and take it out somewhere to dry. But don't throw the soapy water out yet. Get a light sponge. You can do this while the membrane is drying. Squeeze the living heck out of it, and then we'll use that to clean the faces of the keys. So get an old towel. It's windy. Get an old towel and lay this in, preferably the sun, or if it's windy like this, just somewhere dry. Like this, for example. I just hope the magpies don't come along and peck it while it's drying. Let's go clean those keys. Right, so you can with this, like this is almost dry, it's that non-wet. You can give that a careful light wipe if you like, just to get any bits of crud off there. Let that dry as well. You could do that, you don't have to though. Probably better off to just use the paintbrush. While you're at it, if you didn't look under the sticker, which I knew damn well from doing this since I was a kid, they often hide screws, and you've forced those apart, get rid of those. You won't need those. They will still clip together okay. So with your little sponge, methodically go over each key. Now you don't have to do this, or you could use something plastic, but just try and get some of the crud from the oil of your skin. You can use something plastic to scrape that, maybe even the battery cover. Don't use metal because you'll gouge it. So if you just lightly go over those, you see all the crud comes off, and you can actually see what the keys say again, which is handy. And then once you've done them all, just wipe them lightly over. Here's a good example with the space bar. See how it's all coming off? So I'm just using this plastic. Surprising, like methodically, I always wash my hands before I come to the computer and use the keyboard, but your skin does build up oil. So just work your way around the whole keyboard doing this. It'll take you a while, but it'll look nice and shiny at the end. After you've cleaned that all, give it another vacuum, because the bits of crud would have fallen down as you cleaned them, as you cleaned each key. So give those a vacuum, or else it's a bit self-defeating if you get all the rubbish back under them. So there you go. That looks a lot cleaner. It's totally up to you how much time and effort you want to invest. You can, in theory, pop the keys out from the other side and clean them individually. But that's what I did last time on a different keyboard, but yeah, really up to you if you want to even bother doing this. If money's no option, then you probably just want to buy another keyboard. But anyway, to reassemble this, just reverse the way you've done it and see how you go. So just reassemble everything carefully. Use a bit of common sense. You see there's a tab there and a tab there, so you know which way the membrane lays out. Take your time. It's worth mentioning the membrane keyboards, such as these are, will be slightly different to the switch keyboards, but the principle of cleaning them is the same, except you won't have a membrane. And what you do with the switch type ones is use contact cleaner spray in each switch, but that stuff's expensive, so yeah. Sometimes you'll have to flip them over like I just did. It makes sense, because in the middle of each little button, we'll call it, makes contact with the circuit below. So then just get your keyboard and clip it all back in carefully. And put the screws in. Put them all firm but not tight. Then replace all your little rubber things underneath. Might be a good opportunity to check your batteries and maybe replace them while you're here. And there we have it. It feels a lot better. I've been meaning to do all of this for probably a year, but because I'm always working on the keyboard, I haven't. That's a lot better. For me, it was worth my while. Excellent. Of course, one thing you could do is keep your box in your warranty if it's from a place like Officeworks here in Australia. They will normally do a straight swap of anything if it's within the warranty period. You could do it that way, but yeah, time goes so quickly it's easy to lose track of time. Probably worth mentioning as a side note, and this could almost be another video, with warranty now, okay, with keyboards are cheap, but in Australia anyway, and I imagine most places in the world are similar, you not only have your normal warranty, manufacturer's warranty, under Australian consumer law you have a right, basically, put very simply, to expect that things will last a reasonable time. So that overrides any manufacturer's warranty. For example, let's say you've spent $2,000 on a refrigerator and the warranty's 1 year, and 18 months later the fridge poops itself. Well, then it's not fair to assume that fridge should have only lasted a year, for example. Same with cars, like you spent $50,000 on a car and the engine or transmission blows up after, you know, just after the warranty's expired. You've not used it for commercial purposes and just done a reasonable amount of kilometres and serviced it, etc. That warranty will override other things. Anyway, that was a side note. If it's worth doing to you, as it was in my case, to fix up a keyboard, go ahead and do it. If money's no object and you couldn't be bothered or just too time poor, go ahead and buy another one. For me, it worked. Of course, over time, keys do get more rattly through natural wear and tear, but just that simple clean has made this one nice and quiet again, which is one reason I bought it. So, something to do if you've got a few hours. Not even that, took me an hour. Yeah, something to do if you want. Okay, cheers, I hope that's helped someone, and I'll see you soon.